Welcome back. In a moment, more on Brexit and what it means for us all. But first, here are some other stories to keep an eye on. A preliminary report from the European Space Agency has revealed why its probe crash-landed on the surface of Mars. The investigation has suggested the Mars lander misinterpreted vital sensor data about altitude. This led the drone to discard its parachute before free-falling to its destruction. The collapse of a platform at a building site in southeastern China has left a number of construction workers dead. Some 68 people were at the site at the time when scaffolding gave way. Many are still unaccounted for. More than 200 soldiers and 32 fire trucks are attending the scene. At least 100 people have been arrested in Cameroon following mass protests over employment discrimination. The English-speaking minority are claiming that they're passed over for top-level jobs and opportunities in favour of French speakers. Well, more now on the non-event that is Brexit. Well, non-event so far. With me in the studio is Eunice Goes, Associate Professor of Politics at Richmond University, and the political commentator Ian Dale. So we had that discussion about process. What about the regular guy or girl in the street? We saw that businessman trying to think out, what am I going to do next? I mean, the British are famous for being a bit stoical and just soldiering on. Is that what people do, Ian? They just carry on?
Well, I think everyone does at the moment, and we keep talking about the economic effects of Brexit. Brexit hasn't happened yet, and nobody can, hand on heart, say they know exactly what the effects are. People who voted leave to leave the European Union are convinced that there are some sunny uplands in the distance. Those who voted remain think it's going to be all doom and gloom. The only actual tangible effect so far has been the fall in the pound, which of course for some people is a good thing. For exporters it's a great thing, but for inflation it is going to have an effect on people's pockets over the course of the next 2 years.
Do you think, just for the benefit of the people as a whole, for business, they should get on with this and actually get the thing done as quickly as possible?
Yes, for the benefit of business, and I think not only for business, for universities, even for the European citizens who are living in the United Kingdom, they would need a bit more certainty about what's going to happen to their lives in the next 2-3 years.
If we try and look at this issue from the perspective of people living in the rest of Europe, though, if we go to France, I suppose they're not really going to be paying attention. They're consumed, or will be consumed pretty soon, by their own election coming up, and an interesting and intriguing prospect of the rise of the far right there in Marine Le Pen looks a serious contender now.
She does look a serious contender, but I think there is a danger of exaggerating the popularity of Marine Le Pen. The FN has very few MPs in the French Parliament, and in 2002, when Jean-Marie Le Pen was a presidential candidate and went to the second round, he attracted 17% of the vote. One of the other problems that French politics has is the fragmentation of the vote of the left-wing parties. So there is then a concentration on candidates that are popular, that have been in the public domain for a very long time, and that is the case of Marine Le Pen. And, well, it is a threat. I think it's concentrating the minds of many people, not only in France but across Europe, that she might indeed reach the Élysée and, well, unravel the whole European Union project.
And then we have the German elections, Ian, coming up during the next calendar year as well. Can it really be that the status quo candidate, Chancellor Merkel, can just soldier on blithely, or do you think there will be this disaffection with regular voters about the status quo?
I think Germany is a very different case to France, partly because of the electoral system. I do think in France 2016 is very different to 2002, and Marine Le Pen has refashioned the National Front in her own image rather than her father's, and she's a much more plausible figure than her father was. But in Germany, Angela Merkel has said she will stand again. I would have thought she will pull through. Yes, you have this new Alternative für Deutschland, the sort of right-wing party UKIP equivalent, and they might take quite a few votes from the CDU and CSU. But I would have thought that with the coalition system that there always is in Germany, that we will still have Chancellor Merkel at the end of it, maybe with a slightly broader coalition than she's got now.
And in other parts of Europe, if we think of the troubles where economies are struggling just to function, really, and we did a segment about Greece only recently, the Italians too, the Spanish economy isn't that healthy, I suppose. Are people, do you think, that bothered? Even the body politic, are they bothered about the Brexit process?
They are not, well, it's not their number one priority. but it sends a very strong signal that something is changing in Europe at the level of culture, at the level of tolerance about different people, different religions, but also at the level of how Europeans get along with each other. So I think Brexit works at that level. People believe, well, it's becoming a little bit like Trump America, and people worry about racism, they worry about xenophobia.
What way are they like about Trump America?
This is what yes, there is the whole scenario of the rise of populism in Europe, and Brexit was one good example of
what is wrong with populism? I mean, populism means that you appeal to a lot of people. Isn't that what we want politicians to do?
Well, but populism is not only that. Populism brings with it a threat to democratic institutions.
Seriously?
It brings with it a threat to also to the survival of liberal values, human rights, and so on. One of the strongest indicators of a Brexit vote in Britain, and this is analysis done by pollsters, was not attitudes towards the economy or even immigration. It was attitudes towards that penalty. So it is actually quite concerning the way that people are voting. So the support for Marine Le Pen, for Brexit, or for Donald Trump in the United States, it's not just an attitude against immigrants.
Is there a pattern?
There is a trend. There is a pattern.
So you are equating voting for Brexit to voting to Marine Le Pen. That is a disgusting thing to say.
No, I didn't say that. No, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
I mean, that whole attitude.
There is an attitude. The Brexit voter, the Brexit voter has associated with it certain attitudes towards certain values. The death penalty was done, and there's studies done by pollsters.
It's ridiculous. I voted for Brexit. I don't believe in the death penalty. I'm quite happy for a lot of immigration to this country. I voted to leave the European Union because I wanted the British Parliament to make our laws, not unelected bureaucrats in Brussels. And the problem is that academic elites do not understand that the people have become divorced from themselves, divorced from the academic elites.
All polls indicated immigration was the major concern that drove the Brexit vote.
33% said they voted because of immigration. And are you seriously saying that people shouldn't have a right to be concerned about the levels of immigration, that we shouldn't be able to control our own borders?
They have the right to be concerned, but there are questions about should people be blaming immigration for all the ills and problems of
that's because
Britain.
the political elites have let them down and haven't actually persuaded the people of the benefits of immigration. I believe there are lots of benefits from immigration, but unfortunately, prime ministers, politicians over the past 10, 15, 20 years haven't had a proper immigration policy which the people can respect.
Of course not, and they have allowed for migrants to be scapegoated for all the problems that exist in Britain, from the problems in the NHS, education system, austerity, and so on. Migrants are not.
That's a failure of political leadership.
That's a failure of political leadership, but it's not a problem of immigration.
And on that note,
I agree.
Political leaders have failed. I'm sure we'll return to this conversation another time. Thank you both very much indeed. We're going to end our programme, as we usually do, with a little something you should know. This is our Insight Bite. And today, it's a rather spectacular entry into the Guinness World Records. An Australian has made the list by completing the world's highest basketball shot from the top of a dam in Switzerland. Look at that. Derek Heron of Perth flew to the Swiss Alps with his How Ridiculous team members to score from a height of 180 metres. The Australian group performed different tricks and skills to share them on their social media pages. Congratulations to them. And that's all from me too. I'm Martin Stanford. That was Insight.